DND number 10, Circle of Life, in Jesus' Name, Part 2, Chapter 21. Eric sat on the floor with his beautiful wife cuddled safely in his lap for several minutes. "Eric," she finally whispered. "Yes, baby. I know you're busy training young Eric, and I know we have so little time, but could we have, like, a funeral or a memorial for little Maria and actually for all the children who lost their lives?" "Oh, sweetheart," he said, shaking his head. "I am so sorry. I didn't think of that. We need closure. Yes, of course. We should have a memorial for them. And could we look into the families of the women who died and see if they were able to have funerals or something? And if not, could we honor them too? I mean, could we learn about them, who they were?" Yes. We'll take care of all of them." Eric nodded at Ricky. "Son, where's young Eric?" "On the beach. Will you have him come in and the three of us will lay hands on Shelley and bless her?" Ricky pulled out his phone and called young Eric in. Shelley wiped her eyes and looked up into the face of the husband she thought she'd lost just a few weeks ago. She shook her head. "You don't know, Eric. You weren't there. And you don't know how hard it was to know that you were dying. You were leaving me, and I had to somehow raise your children without you." Eric nodded in understanding. "You're right. I don't know. You went through that trauma, and I didn't. I just came back and everything was fine, just as I left it. But it wasn't, was it? You went through unfathomable heartache and emotional turmoil. And just because I came back to you doesn't instantly heal your trauma. Baby, I am so sorry." She sniffed. "And your letter. You said you weren't worried about me because I always come through when things get hard. Well, I just want you to know, Eric, that I don't always come through or rise up or whatever you said. Oh, maybe for a minute or two. I mean, maybe I can handle things in small doses. But I'm not strong, Eric. I'm not strong without you. I know you think that. You've always thought that, but if only you could see yourself through my eyes. I am so proud of you, Shelley. You are strong. Stop saying that." "Okay, I understand. There are times you just don't want to be strong. I get it. And you know what? You don't have to be. I'm here for you, babe. So please, relax. Let go. You don't have to be strong anymore. I'm here, and you don't have to be strong, my love. I'll be strong enough for both of us." Too funny. Ricky butted in. "Okay. So, while we're waiting on young Eric to get here, let's recap so that you can focus, Shelley, and, get all of your feelings in order. But first," Ricky ran into the dining room, grabbed a chair, brought it back into the living room, took Shelley's hand and pulled her out of his father's lap, where he sat on the floor, and sat her in the chair. He then held his hand out to his father and pulled him to his feet. He lifted him with no effort, and his father looked him in the eye and nodded his head with a smile. Ricky didn't quite understand what his father was smiling at, but he got the feeling again it was another passing of the torch type thing. It seemed everything meant something to his father. For now, Ricky brushed it aside and turned his mind to the problem at hand. "So," Ricky went on, "let's recap. Shelley, you've been feeling bad or maybe guilty that you weren't the one to carry your own children inside your own body and give them life. You feel like you must suffer the pains of childbirth and the trials of new motherhood to be able to bond with your children. Still, you do know and understand that they are your children and that it's okay and that you love them. You know that God brought them to you in a different way. Why? Who knows? Maybe God will make it clear to you one day. But the thing that seems clear to me is God wanted you and Dad to have these children and to raise these children because God, well, He works in mysterious ways. God also knows you're older now and there are limitations to what you can do, but He's given you vast resources and a giant family, and we are willing to do whatever you need us to do. I mean, I also want to get to know my new brothers and sister. And I too want to mourn the ones we lost and to know and mourn the women who gave their lives. And I know Jeffy feels the same. And Mark and Joey and Bree. So, Shelley, you're not alone in this. And my father is back. It's such a blessing. Do you remember standing by his bed together with me? Do you remember the feeling of loss and emptiness, the pain and the heartbreak? Dad won't ever know what we went through. But you know, and I know you'll never forget that pain because I'll never forget it. Still, we can let go and move forward and be filled with joy because Dad is here. What a blessing. He looked at his father, whose eyes shone with pride for his son. At that moment, young Eric came running in through the dining room doors. He was breathing heavy and covered with perspiration. He wore only shorts and athletic shoes. Ricky looked up at him. What took you so long? He shrugged. Sorry, I was a mile or two away when you called. I sprinted as much as I could. Well, go grab a towel and wipe your face and wash your hands and come back and help us give Shelley a blessing. Yes, sir, but, I'm not dressed. God doesn't mind. Nodding, young Eric ran into the kitchen, did as ordered, and rushed back into the living room. Eric nodded at his son and grandson. They all laid their hands on Shelley. Eric's hands on her head, Ricky's on one shoulder, and young Eric's on the other. Father, Eric began, we come before you at this time in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, to bless your sweet daughter, Shelley. She's been struggling, Father. I guess you know. We ask a healing for her right now. We ask you to heal her heart, to fill her with joy, to give her understanding, and to give her strength. Father, we're grateful for the challenge and the opportunity of raising 5 more of your children. We bless Shelley with physical stamina and with wisdom and with emotional healing and strength. Fill her with the knowledge of your love and with our love too. As Eric continued to speak and to bless, something did indeed begin to happen. Shelley became filled with warmth and love and the Holy Spirit. She heard whispering, and the words, power of 3 generations, came into her head. And she realized that these 3 men, these 3 strong, powerful, light-filled, God-fearing men, were a force to be reckoned with. And more, she heard, more. She wasn't sure what that meant, but she felt at peace. The yearning for something ceased. Her heart opened up. The peace and strength came back, and her eyes filled with tears. The blessing ended. She hadn't even heard the last part of it. The heaviness of the men's hands lightened as they lifted their hands from her. No one spoke, but Shelley could hear their heavy breathing as if they'd all been running. Eric finally reached his hand out to her. We need to ground. Take your shoes off and we'll go walk on the beach. She nodded, slipped off her shoes, and walked with her husband. Young Eric silently went to the front window and stared out, and Ricky drew several deep breaths as he tried to figure out what had just taken place. Sometimes life was so real, like eating a meal or falling asleep next to his wife after making love, washing the car, vacuuming the living room. And sometimes it was surreal, like now, when a person can feel God's presence and his power and his wisdom so close, yet not knowing how to grasp it or how to hold on to it. You're not at a place where you can hold on to it, he heard inside his own head. It is not given for your mortal bodies to remain in my presence for long periods of time. Not yet, but reach out, Eric, he knows, and I'll be there for you. Continue to strive to do the will of God. Stay clean. Resist temptation. You are loved. Ricky almost stumbled backward. He grabbed the back of the chair he'd brought into the room. He couldn't hold back the tears, and his son turned from the window and stared at him, tears running over his cheeks. Did you hear that? Ricky looked up. Did you? Young Eric nodded. I will never forget this day. New scene. Hey, 3, Jordan said as she answered her phone. It's late. Everything okay? Yes, everything is fine. I just needed to hear your voice. How was your day? I worked hard, like you recommended. I'm tired, but pleasantly so. I got a C on an algebra test, though. But hey, it's math. Well, I can help you with that, you know. A little tutoring and you'll be making A's in no time. If you can find time, I'll take you up on that. For you, Jordan, I'll make time. Cool. So tell me about your day. It was a very strange but unforgettable day. Sounds intriguing. Tell me, unless it's too personal. No, it's not too personal. I mean, it's personal for my family, but I want to tell you. Eric went on to describe the emotional distress that his grandmother was in, and even the part that he hadn't heard, but his father had told him. He told about the blessing they gave, and the words both he and his father had heard. And he told her that he prayed God would touch her heart and help her to understand what he was trying to tell her. He wasn't sure that she truly got it, but at least she listened and didn't react like she thought he'd lost his mind. Actually, she was unusually quiet. When she didn't say anything, he asked, "So, what do you think about that?" "Well, I believe you. I mean, I don't think I quite get it or understand it, but I know you and your family enough to know that you are all very spiritual, very connected, and if you heard God speak to you, well, I'm thinking God couldn't have found a better person to speak to." Young Eric smiled. "Jordan, I was thinking our relationship happened so fast." "Oh, no, 3. If you're about to break up with me, I don't want to hear it." He chuckled. "Break up with you? You're kidding, right?" "No, of course not. I'm just saying we started out kind of in the wrong order. I mean, you met my family on our very first date." "Yeah, maybe it's them I'm in love with. I mean, they are really awesome." "Yeah, they are. But I'm being serious right now." "Oh, sorry. Go ahead." "So we've been to a few sporting events and out to dinner a few times, and really that's it. You've watched me get my butt kicked a bunch of times. I've played with your brother and sister. Let's do something together that's fun, just you and me. What kind of things do you like to do, like something you would do if you didn't have anything else pressing?" She giggled. "We've done that too." He laughed. "Again, we're way out of order. Really now, tell me something you really enjoy." "Well, I'm not too deep, 3. I like sports. I haven't really done a lot of things that I could say I like this and I don't like that." "Why?" She sighed. "Well, it's the money thing, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to talk about that. Let me just say, I know things I don't like to do." "Okay, like what?" "Let me see. Well, I mean, I don't like to work at Sonny's Hamburgers. I don't even like to cook. I don't like to ask neighbors if I can wash their car for a few dollars. I don't really like amusement parks. I don't like video games. I don't like scrubbing the driveway. I don't like to babysit for Mr. Ainsley's 2 rotten kids while he goes out with sleazy women and comes home drunk and ready to get amorous." "What the hell?" "I don't get all protective and stuff. I was able to deflect pretty well." He sighed. "How old were you?" "Oh, I guess about 12 or so." "Just a little kid." He sighed. "Okay. Tell me about this scrubbing driveways. That was a job you had?" "No, it was a job Peter made me do for punishment." He closed his eyes and drew a breath. "What did you do that he made you scrub the driveway?" "Well, usually it was because I talked back to him. You may have noticed that I have a tendency to speak my mind." Young Eric smiled. "Yes, I love that about you. So, like, you talked back and he sent you out with like a broom and a bucket, huh?" "Oh, I wish I had a broom. I did have a bucket of hot soapy water and a handheld scrub brush, and I sat on my knees for hours scrubbing every inch of the driveway. My knees were raw, my knuckles were bloody because I kept scraping them. It sucked." "Good grief, how old were you then?" "I was about 10. "Jordan, he didn't just try to rape you, he abused you." "Oh, whatever, it was no big deal. A little hard work never hurt anyone. Change the subject, please." He shook his head. "Okay, so, tell me why you hate amusement parks." "Well, I've only been to one, so I guess that's not really fair." She laughed. "Not really fair. Get it?" He chuckled. So, did your whole family go together? Ha, that would have been rich. No, I was almost 16. Some of the girls on the softball team were going. Jess's mom drove us and dropped us off. I'd earned enough babysitting to have $20 to spend, and I felt guilty about that, but I went anyway. We went to Pacific Park on the Santa Monica Pier. I know it well. Right. So you don't like pay to get in, you just go and buy tickets for each ride or buy a wristband for unlimited rides. But a wristband costs $40 unless you're a kid, so I rode a couple of rides and pretended I didn't like to ride, and I guess I decided amusement parks were stupid. Why go and pay people good money to, like, throw your body around in a machine? So you never went back? No. Besides, I felt too guilty. How could I go and not take my brother and sister? And then I started to just use any money I made to help out my mom with any bills I could help with. Do you think your brother and sister might like to go to an amusement park? Well, they're kids, aren't they? But I just don't have that kind of money to waste right now. Well, I do, and it wouldn't be a waste if it brought smiles to their faces and gave them an outing with their sister that they'd always remember. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking me. Stop it with the money thing, Jordan. I have money. I'm not going to apologize for that. Allow me to give you and your siblings a fun day. She sighed. Okay, as long as you understand that I don't like you for your money. I believe you. Now, back to what I was asking about. Things you like to do. Like, do you like movies? Sure. Do you like to swim? Sure. In a pool or in the ocean? Both, but I've only been in a pool a few times. Okay, interesting. Do you like to surf? I've never tried. Would you like to? I mean, if I teach you? Sure, I'm game. Cool. We could probably surf off Ocean Park. It's good for beginners. You won't let me drown? Never. So when do you want to make any of these things happen? He sighed. Well, the thing is, the day you met me, my life changed. When I'd normally have time off, now I have to train every day except Sundays. But there are a few time slots we can make some things happen, like this coming Saturday. My family will be in Nashville. JoJo's game is an away game at Oregon State. I would usually go, we all would, but Logan is going to Nashville, and Granddad is staying home with Grandma and the kids, so I might be able to get the last half of the day off with nowhere to go except surfing with my girl, or a movie, or dinner and dancing. Do you like to dance? Yes, now that's something I like to do. Awesome. Well, maybe we'll squeeze in a little of both. Surf, get cleaned up, dinner and dancing, maybe at the Sunset, though I might find another place. A lot of drinking going on there. We'll figure it out. That sounds like fun. Which part? The part where I get to spend the day with you. He smiled. Well, I guess I'd better get some sleep. Me too. Good night. Night, Jordan. 3? Yep. Love you, she said softly. Love you too. New scene. The week inched by. On Tuesday, Jordan attended Taylor's game, and the fam went to eat at Casa Latina, and young Eric and Jordan had a difficult time saying goodbye. Wednesday and Thursday, both Eric and Jordan did their best to focus on the tasks at hand, namely training for Eric and classes and practice for Jordan. On Thursday, young Eric's family left after Taylor's game to go to dance in Nashville. He was happy for Taylor. All she'd been able to talk about was seeing Gabe again and dancing. It was the two best things in the world put together. Young Eric had watched their online practice and was truly impressed. Taylor was a natural dancer, and Gabe was also really good. The kid was good at everything he did. He was special. Eric wasn't jealous. He was just in awe. That night, with the house being empty, young Eric felt really alone and wished that he'd invited Jordan for the weekend. But he had a feeling that with everyone gone, that would be a fire he couldn't put out. So he stayed strong. Besides, Friday was a big day. He had to do his beach workout alone, then head to the studio where Jordan's team would come to see if he practiced what he preached. So he had to be in top form. New scene, September 27th, wee hours of Friday morning, Omni Nashville Hotel, Nashville, Tennessee. Thursday night, Taylor's flight got in just after 1 a.m., so it was officially Friday morning. Gabe had arrived earlier, alone. His father had thought about sending an agent to look after him, but instead, Gabe had convinced him that it was time to be a man. And they both knew that Ricky would be here and that Toby was here, and they had a driver meet Gabe at the airport. Both Gabe and the Kenos would be staying at the same hotel. Ricky, Bree, and Taylor would share a suite. Logan and Gabe each had a room of their own. Currently, Gabe sat in the hotel lobby waiting for the Kenos and Logan to arrive from the airport. He wasn't sleepy because he was too jacked up to be able to see and hold and kiss his girl again. It'd been 3 long weeks. It seemed like months. He'd been told to come home, sleep for 3 days, start working out, eat healthy, get checked out by his doc, and if he gives the okay, Gabe would start training for the second ever Keno Mini Mart. That seemed like forever ago instead of less than 3 weeks. Though it was essentially the middle of the night, the lobby wasn't empty, although there were less people than earlier when Gabe had gone out to dinner. He turned when he heard some murmuring at the door and saw a bellhop hurry out with a luggage carrier. Gabe stood to see if it was them. He didn't even have to go looking. The beautiful girl came running in through the doors, her hair blowing in the breeze that the door created, her smile wide. She spotted him and gave a soft scream and ran at him. Smiling, he watched her come, held his arms open, and she jumped into them. It was instant relief, instant comfort, the most wonderful feeling in the world to be reunited with the person you love. She buried her face on his shoulder and cried. "Oh, Gabe, I am so happy to see you. Oh, goodness, I jumped on you. Are you okay? I mean, like where you were shot?" He laughed. "I'm good, all healed, back to being myself, a little weak, that's all." She hugged him harder. "I've missed you so much." He set her down and took her face in his hands. "Me too. I mean," she giggled, "I know what you mean. Now," he kissed her, long and slow. When he pulled away, Taylor immediately noticed the cameras, not the people who stopped a video on their phones, but their bigger cameras, studio cameras. "Are we being taped?" Gabe nodded. "Yes. The studio is taping every move we make. It's for advertising the show. I don't understand why it's so important. I mean, it's not like their ratings are down." "Well, maybe they're not down because they think of stuff like this," Taylor said, motioning toward a camera. "Maybe, but I'm thinking you and I are going to have to find some time alone." Taylor smiled sweetly. "I would love that." "I have my own room." "Wow, Gabe, that sounds sleazy." Gabe chuckled. "Well, it won't be, but still, just a little time alone. It can't be that bad." He looked up as Ricky and Bree left the front desk and approached him. Gabe stepped forward. "Grandmaster Keno," he said as he bowed. Ricky grinned. "That's my father," he quipped. He bowed and then held out his hand. "How you doing, Guy?" "I'm well, sir. Feeling great." "Good. Young Eric is looking forward to training with you." "Me too. I mean, I'm looking forward to training with him," he said as he winked at Taylor. Taylor giggled. Gabe turned to Bree. "Mrs. Keno, it's nice to see you again." "Oh, stop, Gabe, with the formal stuff and give me a hug." She grabbed him, hugged him, and kissed both his cheeks. "There," she said with a laugh. "That should please the studio heads." They all laughed. Logan stepped forward from behind the Kenos and held out his hand. "Hey, bro." Gabe grinned. "Logan, man, it's so glad you decided to do this." They shook hands and then pulled in for a hug. "It was an intriguing offer," Logan said. "Besides, everyone knows if you want to get famous, just hang out with the Gabe and Taylor duo." "Yep, silly, isn't it?" "Well, the people that your new foundation are helping don't think it's so silly." "I didn't know you were keeping up." "Well, my dad is your attorney, and he may have broken some privilege, but he was telling us at dinner about some of the kids your foundation has already helped." Gabe nodded humbly. "I hope to do a lot more." "I know you do, 'cause, my bro, that's just what you do." The group laughed. "So listen, kids," Ricky began. "I know you two want to spend some time together, but it's late, and you have a big day tomorrow. So I'm going to have to insist that we all go to our rooms and get some sleep and meet for breakfast in the morning. We're due in the studio for rehearsal at 9. Taylor frowned, and Gabe nodded. Yes, sir. Too bad there's not a beach nearby. We could do the beach morning routine thing. Ricky smiled. I can make that happen. Not the beach, but a place to do our routine, at least part of it. Would you join me? I'd be honored. Ricky turned. Logan? Of course, Uncle Ricky, honored as well. Taylor? She smiled. Any time spent with Gabe, I'm in. Ricky raised his eyebrows at her. She giggled. Yes, Grandmaster Keno, I'd be honored. Gabe watched as Ricky walked over to speak with the concierge. The Kenos always took care of things immediately, if possible. New scene. It's September 27th, Friday morning, still, Omni Nashville, Nashville, Tennessee. It was a good thing that Ricky had insisted that they get some sleep. The morning seemed to come very fast. At 7 a.m., Gabe, Taylor, Logan, and Ricky stood together in a mirrored room intended for a fitness class. As they went through their routine, they'd gathered an audience outside the glass walls, but it didn't distract them, and again the studio cameras were there, keeping track of their every move. Cameras or not, Gabe couldn't keep himself from grabbing Taylor a few times and kissing her soundly. Of course, the studio heads wouldn't mind that a bit. They were playing up the romance between the two. Taylor frowned, though, and asked him, Does it bother you, the cameras and the publicity going on around you all the time? It used to, but you're the one who kept telling me it's all for a good cause, because every bit of exposure brings attention to the foundation. So now, I don't even pay attention to it. It doesn't change how I act towards you or how I feel about you, because when I'm with you, all I think about is how much I love you. And how much is that? He smiled. This much, he said softly as he lowered his mouth to her and kissed her long and slow. They pulled away at the clearing of her throat, and they looked up to see Ricky frowning. Not the place or time. Gabe nodded. Sorry, sir. Can't seem to help myself. I can help it. Step forward and let's practice some sparring moves. Yes, sir, Gabe said as he bowed. He stepped forward and went through a sparring routine of sorts, a Keno original. When they finished, the audience outside the room applauded. Ricky nodded. I guess we're done, guys. He bowed to the three. They returned the honor. Let's go eat, Gabe said. They went to their rooms, quickly changed clothes, and met Bree at the restaurant. After breakfast, a limo drove them to the studio. Both Caroline and Toby met them out front. Wow, well, this is some welcoming committee, Ricky said. Toby smiled, moved forward, and shook Ricky's hand before he pulled him in for a big bear hug. Only the best for you guys, and we're the best, he joked. That you are, Bree agreed. Toby turned and kissed her cheek and stepped away so that she could hug Caroline, which he knew was who she really wanted to see. Caroline hugged Ricky. She always felt a little giddy around him. The first time she'd met him, she was a lowly waitress who'd been in big trouble with the law. He was powerful then, and his power had not diminished. He seemed to dominate a room with some kind of electrical energy that simply took one's breath away. Ricky, she said softly as she kissed his cheek. Caro, you're as beautiful as ever. Killed anyone lately? She laughed. Not lately, but keep it up and see what happens. Toby smiled. His Caroline wasn't a meek little nobody anymore. Well, Caroline said, let me see my stars. Ricky and Bree stepped aside while Gabe, Taylor, and Logan were properly greeted by both Caroline and Toby. Logan was always a little shy around Toby, and it showed. Toby patted him on the back. You ready to show the world what you got? Not sure, but guess I'd better get ready. That's right, but I'm not worried about you at all. You just sing like you did on that video, like you're singing to your family, and you're going to be a big star. As a matter of fact, Grace said she'd like to get together with you while you're here and share some songs. Logan nodded. I'd like that. Is she here today? Not yet, but she will be. Come on, let's go in and get started. Carol nodded as they headed inside. Logan, Toby will take you down to the sound studio and introduce you to the guys in the band so that you can get going. Yes, ma'am, Logan said as he walked with Toby down the corridor. Carol turned to Taylor and Gabe. You guys come with me. We're going to head to the dance studio and work on the Uptown Funk dance first. Then when we get a rough recording of how Logan's song goes, we'll start on choreography for that. Ricky and Bree, y'all are welcome to watch either rehearsal or a little of both. Make yourselves at home. Everyone knows you're here, and there will be assistants at your beck and call. She nodded at the girl coming down the corridor, and there's one right now. Steph, meet Ricky Keno and Brianna Adams. The woman smiled and offered her hand. It's so nice to meet you both. If you need anything at all, I'll be nearby all day. Thanks, Steph, Bree said. We'll let you know if we need anything. She turned back to Carol. And thanks to you for showing such hospitality. And don't worry, we'll be fine. We don't require any special treatment, except no green M&Ms. Ricky laughed at Carol's surprised look. She's joking. She's just not good at it. The problem is, Ricky Keno, I'm too good at it. I'm such a fine actress, she didn't know that I was kidding. Caroline laughed. Okay, then. Well, let's get to work. They headed into the dance studio. There was a large floor, a wall covered with mirrors, a bar, some chairs, and a table off to one side with water and some other goodies and refreshments. Ricky and Bree took a seat. Taylor and Gabe took off their jackets. Taylor wore baggy black dance pants and a sweatshirt over her sports top. Gabe had on baggy gray sweatpants and a t-shirt. Taylor shivered. I forgot how it gets cold in other parts of the country this time of year. Carol nodded. Oh, yeah, we actually have seasons here. And you're in for a treat because tonight we're expecting severe thunderstorms. Oh, yay, Taylor said facetiously as she shivered. Don't worry, you'll be very warm in a few minutes. Caroline played their music while she led them through some warm-up stretches and moves. When she felt confident they were warmed up, she nodded and backed away. Okay, kiddos, let me see what you got. They went through their dance, then stood facing Miss Caroline, waiting to hear what she had to say. Well, you guys have been working hard, that much I can tell. It's much sharper than what it was at the wedding, so good job on that. It's really good. There's just a few places that need tweaking, and we may change up a few things just to make your transition smoother. I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings for me to make some changes. No, ma'am, Gabe said quickly. You're the teacher. We're all yours. Caroline smiled. Good. Let's get to work. New scene. It's still September 27th, Friday morning. Keno Martial Arts, Newport Beach, California. On Friday morning, young Eric went about business as usual. He finished his own workout on the beach and grabbed his bag with dried t-shirts for the coming day and clean clothes for later, after his shower. He headed to the studio. He arrived earlier than usual. He wanted to get there before the visitors. Inside, his grandfather was speaking with Master Foreman. Young Eric dropped his bag in its usual place and went to the locker room briefly, came out and presented himself to Master Foreman and to his grandfather. He bowed. Excuse me, sirs, but do you need me to set up chairs, or will we ask our visitors to sit on the floor? Good morning, Eric, his grandfather said. Oh, yep, absolutely. Good morning, sir. Set up a few chairs for the coaches and the athletic director in case he comes, and the rest can sit on the floor or grab their own chair if they wish. And grab the cooler out of Master Foreman's car. Young Eric bowed. Yes, sir. He moved quickly to get the cooler first and then began setting up 5 chairs. He was almost done when Jordan arrived, and then right after her, Colton and 3 other girls arrived. Young Eric smiled as he approached Jordan and gave her a quick kiss. Hey, Jordan. Hey, 3. He smiled and nodded. Hello, Colton, ladies. He shook Agent Trout's hand. Are you staying? I wish, but I'm just making sure she got here okay. Jason has a job for me. Young Eric nodded. Well, I haven't asked her yet, but hopefully she'll agree to have dinner with me tonight. Okay, well, you have my number. Let me know what time to see her home. Unless it's after midnight. If that's the case, Agent Brown will be on call. Eric nodded. If it's that late, I'll see her home myself. So I guess that means, Agent Trout, that you're free until the morning. But tomorrow will be a short day because after she goes to visit her family in the morning, she'll be with me the rest of the day. And the night? Let's play that by ear. Agent Trout smiled. You're a lucky guy, Keno, he said as he took his leave. Eric nodded. Yes, I am. He smiled at Jordan but looked back at his grandfather who was frowning. I'm supposed to be stretching out. The chairs are for the coaches, but if anyone else wants one, they're in that stack over there on the other side of the bench. Otherwise, you can just sit on the floor around the outer perimeter of the room. We got it, Jordan said. Go stretch before you have to do a punishment before you even start. He grinned. Being with you is worth it. He kissed her cheek and went to the other side of the large room and began stretching. His own grandfather would punish him just because he isn't stretching, one of the girls asked. Oh, yeah, he's tough, which is why everyone he trains wins. Come on, let's find the best place to sit. And that is the end of chapter 21.